When it comes to the squared circle, there are a few companies out there like WWE. The WWE, the pinnacle of wrestling, right? A sign that you have finally made it into the big leagues. You know, I used to watch WWE when I was in middle school. The 1000th episode of Raw, CM Punk turning heel, and everything after that. I used to watch Raw almost every week, but never the pay-per-views because I would just never ask my mom. But that didn't stop me from watching Undertaker vs Triple H at WrestleMania 28. So later that year, I got WWE 13 for Christmas, and let me tell you, that weekend was nothing but me playing WWE 13 non-stop. It was fun, it was addicting, the Attitude Era mode was fun to go through. So the next year I got WWE 2K14, and man, did it blow WWE 13 out of the water. It was everything WWE 13 was, but more. It had more content, it had the history of WrestleMania mode, break the streak mode, defend the streak mode, and the gameplay was way faster than WWE 13. It was just really addicting. I remember when I went back to WWE 13 after playing WWE 2K14, and man, was it just not the same anymore. And then I ended up losing the disc for it sometime after because, well, past me is an idiot. 2K14 was the first game released by 2K after THQ went under, but it was already developed and completed by Yuke's by the time that all happened, so all 2K really did was slap their logo on the cover art, which explains why every game after just can't compete. Just like 2K15, and not just 2K15, 2K15 on the PS3, because past me was an idiot. Looking back at the promos for it and seeing the updated models made me go, whoa, that looks so real! Not realizing it was only for the PS4 and Xbox One, because on PS3 and 360, give me my money back. It was just WWE 2K14 2.0 with everything that made 2K14 fun stripped down. Gone was the creative finisher, gone was the creative story mode, the WWE entrance music that would play throughout the menus was gone, and in its place was a lackluster soundtrack with only like one or two good songs on it. It was the absolute bare minimum and underwhelming. Sure, the gameplay was still the same, but at that point, I just went back to 2K14 because, well, they were just the same game, but 2K14 had all the fun stuff. 2K14 was Coca-Cola and 2K15 was Diet Coke. Sure, there's nothing really wrong with Diet Coke, but you just can't beat the original. So when the next year came around, I wasn't watching WWE anymore. I just fell out of it. Not to say 2014 was bad, it was actually pretty good. You had the rivalry between The Shield and Evolution, and then Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins, and the whole month of October leading up to Hell in a Cell. It was just really good. And then it kinda all went downhill for me, personally. Yeah, it was cool that Sting debuted, but he was taken out almost immediately. So with that, and 2K15 being 2K15, I didn't get WWE 2K16 because 16-year-old me was way smarter than 15-year-old me. And looking at gameplay clips online, it's more or much the same. But I still played 2K14, so you can say that I wasn't completely out of the loop with WWE. Then when I got a Switch, I didn't even consider getting 2K18 because it was 2K18. So after the failure that was 2K20, 2K stopped their annual releases for WWE games for all of 1 year. 2K20. I remember they tried pushing this game hard when it came out, saying that it was going to have so much items to use during matches, and then it was going back to the style of Here Comes the Pain. And then the game came out, and it just turned out to be a glitchy mess. That didn't even work once 2020 arrived. So when 2K22 was announced, I was a little skeptical. I actually waited a good while, about a month or two, for the reviews before actually getting it, as well as looking clips online, and from what I saw, it looked good. So I ended up getting it, and yeah, it's fun, but what are these controls? When did they change it? Why did they change it? The last WWE game I played before this was 2K14, so everything is messed up for me. Why is triangle the button to reverse? Why is it now the right bumper to exit the ring? Why do I have to press the right bumper plus square to jump off the ropes instead of just leaning on it like older games? It's just so confusing and needless to change the inputs. Yeah, there's a bit more stuff you could do, but it's a bit of a learning curve and I'm still not used to it. I still press L1 to exit the ring sometimes when you now have to hold R1 to do it, and there's no way to change the button mappings. But confusing button mappings aside, the gameplay is pretty good, and it's pretty fun at points, especially the new DQ type matches like Hell in a Cell, where you can put your opponent through the cell and throw them off the cell. And then there's Extreme Rules and ladder matches, just to name a few. My favorite type of match is Extreme Rules with Falls Count Anywhere, because you can take the match anywhere. The ring, ringside, the ramp, in between the fans and backstage. It's pretty cool to see how much stuff you can actually do in a match, especially taking it to between the crowd and backstage, because you were not able to do that at all in older WWE games, and it's pretty cool that they added it. But when it comes to items, they're more or less the same. You have the chair, candlestick, bat, ladder, table, and a stop sign, but not a trash can, unfortunately. And more often than not, I have trouble picking up anything off the ground, especially ladders. It's kinda clunky, especially when it comes to bridging it between the stands and ring. Sometimes it comes up, and sometimes it doesn't. And I have yet to actually pull it off. Why is it so complicated? And I also have yet to see the return of leaning the ladder against the ropes and diving onto an opponent outside the ring. And another thing I didn't know how to do until recently was jumping off the ropes. Yeah, I didn't know you had to press R1 and square to do it. This goes back again to the confusing control scheme, which I'm just not a fan of. The only reason I found out how to do it was because I played Showcase Mode. This year, Showcase Mode focuses on Rey Mysterio. I think it's cool, because Rey Mysterio finally gets his time in the spotlight. Unfortunately, the first mission is glitched hard. It's against Eddie Guerrero, and it starts simple enough until you have to get Eddie into the corner. And then that's when it becomes impossible, because it doesn't matter what you do, because Eddie's AI will counter every time, even when he's supposed to be stunned. This was so frustrating and got me pretty annoyed and mad, even after looking at videos online, so I just called it quits and finished the match without doing anything else. It's a good mode though, and it's nice to have Rey Mysterio's career highlighted through a series of snippets. Then there's also my GM mode returning from Here Comes the Pain, but I didn't touch it to be honest. But from what I heard, it's not as good or as deep as it was in Here Comes the Pain, so that's a shame. But then there's My Rise, the story mode of the game, where you create a superstar with their own background, ranging from an actor or MMA fighter or indie wrestler. And I gotta say, the character creation is pretty deep. It's not really a surprise to me though, as from my experience with WWE games, the character creator is always usually pretty extensive, with you being able to create pretty much anyone. And man, did they take that concept and run with it in 2K22. And you just need to look no further than the uploaded characters. There's just so much here that it might as well be WWE Ultimate. Well, for my custom character, I just took a picture of my face, uploaded it, and here we are. It wasn't the cleanest picture of me. I did have to cover up some parts where you could tell the picture ended, but overall, I'd say it looks just like my dad. Well, I mean, to the game's credit, you could see a face. It doesn't look like a monstrosity, and I can see myself in it, but yeah, it's just a little bit more my dad than me, which is weird because it's my face. Overall, I think I did a pretty good job with it. And honestly, who actually plays as the real life wrestlers? Not me. I usually play as whichever wrestler I create, and it just so happens that it's me this time around. Seeing myself in game is pretty cool, but it's kind of funny how there's some wrestlers that look pretty realistic and almost indistinguishable from the real life counterpart, and then there's a created wrestler which doesn't have nearly as much detail. Like if you just showed a random person Randy Orton's entrance, they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But if you show them your character's entrance, well then yeah, they'd probably be able to tell it's from a game. But besides myself, other created wrestlers I have are Boba Fett, Big Smoke, Darth Maul, Shrek, SpongeBob, Patrick, Captain America. What the heck are you? I don't remember downloading him. The heck is a Scott DeWaz? Anyways, when creating a moveset, it's much more deeper than 2K14. Like, you have actual combos you can pull off. There's a heavy combo, a grapple combo, and an Irish whip combo. And as a side note, I'm not the biggest fan of every time you throw an opponent into the corner, they immediately fall instead of just staying there like in order games. Because usually when I throw someone into a corner, it's because I want to do a corner move or throw them from the top rope. And then there's also specific taunts you can do depending on what you're doing. There's a generic taunt, an opponent taunt, a wake up taunt, and a crowd taunt. And I kind of rushed through everything because in order games, well, it was a bit more simple. It could easily take 40 minutes to an hour to get everything set up. While here, there's even more stuff, and I dread the thought of spending 2 or more hours creating a moveset. Once you're done though, you can create an entrance, but it's kinda stripped down, as you can't set different entrance types to individual parts of your intro like previous games. It's fine though, it's not that big of a deal. And it sucks you can't use a custom song for your entrance anymore, but that's more on the fact that you can't store music locally on your system anymore like you were able to during the PS3 era. Wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, my rise. It's about you going up the ranks of WWE from the Performance Center to NXT to either Raw or SmackDown, and depending on what you do, you can decide on whether you're a heel or face. And the storyline could be started from anywhere, and I mean anywhere, either through going to the GM's office, going up to a random fan, or interacting with another wrestler on social media. And on one noteworthy storyline, if you're a heel and face for Rey Mysterio, you steal one of Eddie Guerrero's lowriders, and then Rey Mysterio proceeds to beat you so hard that you start hallucinating that you're facing off against Eddie Guerrero. Like, what the heck? Some of these are pretty wacky. I'm not too far into it, at least I don't think. There's not really an end game here other than becoming WWE or Universal Champion. You can kinda create your own storyline though, like in one, Jimmy Uso prevents you from winning the Universal Championship for Roman Reigns. So when me and Jimmy had our match, I proceeded to beat him senseless and left him a bloody mess. Well, the blood in 2K22 looks a bit more realistic, though I am gonna miss the old way it looked where the entire forehead was covered, or even in SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 where it looked even more gruesome depending on where you hit him. So here, it kinda looks toned down, but not nearly as much as it was in 2K15. Then you have Universe Mode. Well, how do I explain this? It's kind of like the My Driver and My Team mode in the F1 games, except you don't only play as your custom character. Here you can mess around with everything, the shows that happen throughout the week, who's a part of the roster, who's the champion, the pay-per-view of that month, and so on. You could also delete or create a team, whether a superstar is a face or heel, create a show, start a rivalry, and set how intense it is. Then when it comes to starting a show, each show has its own intro, pyro, logo, arena, number of matches, and their own roster, and you could play through the matches too. Some of them are normal, and some of them are rivalry matches where some sort of event is sure to happen, either before, during, or after the match. But what I usually do is simulate the matches and only play the rivalry matches with whatever story I created in my head as to why the two wrestlers or teams are fighting. Another thing I do though is create my own show, which becomes a competitor to WWE, which is more violent and cinematic than WWE. But this time, it was not hard to come up with a competitor show. Not gonna lie though, most of my time playing WWE games is spent editing or creating a wrestler and team, and kinda just creating my own story than actually playing the game. Like look here, I created the Justice League. And another time in 2K14, I recreated the Nexus and Authority and had them go at it in an intense rivalry. You know, that's just what makes WWE games fun for me, just creating or recreating some bizarre scenarios and creating a story, especially because that feature is gone now. It sucks because there were some good ones like Fuji's Crack, and I even create a story exclusive characters that I would only use in Create a Story. You know, that's a feature I want added back in a future WWE game. Well, when it comes to the soundtrack, it's actually pretty good. There's some songs in here that I actually like, and there's actually like 2 songs in here, Iron Fist by Motorhead and Hollywood Sucks by Kenny Hoopla, that as upon hearing them, I'm all like, those aren't songs that would go in a WWE game, those are songs that would go in a Tony Hawk game. Overall, I say WWE 2K22 is a pretty fun game, so I'll give it a 8.6 out of 10. Why an 8.6 out of 10 and not a normal 8 out of 10, you say? Well, because it's my video and I feel like it, that's why. Come on, what other game are you gonna have Linus, Sebastian, SpongeBob, Patrick, Kermit, Big Smoke, Goku, Captain America, Shrek, me, all in a once-in-a-lifetime WrestleMania match? Ten out of 10.